All right, it's almost 7. Should we start early? I don't know if we're going to get any additional people. All right, looks like we're starting. My name is Michael Pope. I'm the president of the Historical Society. It is a pleasure to welcome everybody here with our friends Seneca and Cicero. You know, these guys have been here since the beginning. These specific busts were here back in the 1840s on either side of the speaker's rostrum up here. So these busts have seen all the discussions that have happened here over the years, including when they used to read the bumps on people's head, phrenology, to like give a fortune teller reading right here in this room, along with people like John Quincy Adams and Pam Cressy spoke here a couple times. And it's really an honor. She's not even here for her shout out, all right. So it's an honor to welcome everybody here. I want to give some commercials for upcoming events for the Historical Society you do not want to miss, including a great event we're going to have here next month in November. You know, there's this Ken Burns series. Everybody's so excited about the American Revolution. We are going to have a watch party here for the final night of the Ken Burns series. So it starts on a Sunday, and it's a 6-part series. So the final installment is Friday, November 21st. You're going to want to put that on your calendar and come here to the Lyceum along with Seneca and Cicero, and you will watch here in this room up on the screen the final installment of this. In addition to that, we're going to have a panel discussion with some historians and take questions from the audience. You do not want to miss our semi-quincentennial discussion. I practiced that. Did I get it right? Semi-quincentennial. All right. That's actually going to include a bunch of cool people, including our own Scott Viereck, who I'm going to introduce to do this panel a little bit later. Fern Barrow from WETA is going to be a special guest. Ted Pulliam, one of our local historians here, the leading historian in Alexandria, and Jim Ambuske, who has a podcast about the American Revolution called Worlds Turned Upside Down. So you do not want to miss this event, November 21st, 6:30 reception, 7 o'clock discussion, 8 o'clock viewing of WETA. So put that on your calendar. I also want to give a little shout out to our upcoming events next year in 2026. We got a lot of great stuff. Amanda Roper is going to talk about women in preservation. Peter Henriquez is going to give the keynote at our annual History Awards. Karen Stone is going to talk about her book, Shipwreck on the Potomac, Disaster in Pursuit of Lincoln's Killer, about the April 1865 collision between the Mississippi and the Black Diamond. You do not want to miss that in May. And then in June, Richard Bell is going to be speaking about his book, The American Revolution and the Fate of the World. So yet another semi-quincentennial celebration. All right, I think I got that. All right, with that, I'm going to introduce my friend, your host for the evening, Scott Viereck.
All right, well, thank you for the introduction, Michael, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. Last year, for our 50th anniversary, the Alexandria Historical Society decided to do something that, as far as we could tell, we hadn't really done in the past, which was give out grants. And through some weird twist of fate, I ended up as chair of the grants committee. And because this was our first year doing this, initially I was like, are we going to get any applications? Are people going to reach out to us? Are we going to have people who we can fund? I should have realized we were going to have the opposite problem. We were going to get so many great applications that it was quite the challenge for the grants committee to figure out who was going to get what funding. So I do want to give a big shout out to my fellow grant committee members, Pam Cressy, David Hybe, Mark Ludlow, Dr. Brenda Mitchell-Powell, and I believe I'm forgetting one person. It's going to come back to me. But anyway, Audrey Davis, thank you. So we had some really great winners. I think we ended up making the right choice. And so it's my pleasure to be here tonight with some of our grant winners, including Molly Kerr, Hannah LeCompte, Madeline Firestein, Dr. Ben Skolnick, and Harold Hughes. And they'll be talking about what they did with our money. So this is going to be a really great opportunity to talk about the work of history. And one of the things I love about the study of the past is that it's always evolving. For those of you who, when you were kids, ever read the book, The Big Friendly Giant, there's a line where two characters are about to head off into the unknown, and one's a little worried about it, and the other one goes, "Hey man, don't worry about it. The atlas always has a blank page at the end so you can fill in the unknowns yourself." And that's what we're doing with history. Every day we're exploring, we're preserving, and we're finding more out about the past. So we're filling in those blank pages at the end of the history books. So with that, and for whatever reason, I apologize, the PowerPoint seems to be at war with me. It wants to keep jumping ahead before I'm ready. So just bear with me tonight, folks. It's spooky season. Maybe we've got a technophobic ghost here at the Lyceum. We're going to jump to our first Golden Grant winner, Madeline.
Is this already on? Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. My grant was to work on my book manuscript, which is Confine and Fortify, the Military Government of Civil War Alexandria. In December 2024, I graduated from Southern New Hampshire University with my master's in American history. I am currently the lead historian at the Lee Fendel House Museum here in Old Town. I also write for Emerging Civil War and do research for the National Museum of Civil War Medicine. And one of my biggest goals was to expand this thesis into a full-length book. Now, I had a lot of parameters with my master's thesis, mainly a page limit, which was very suffocating. It was really hard to exclude a lot of the primary sources, the personal narratives, and the literature review I truly wanted to do. So the thesis, which I titled Union-Occupied Alexandria, Managing Disharmony During the Civil War, focused more on, was this an effective occupation? And I had to very briefly skirt over the occupation itself and go directly towards my thesis statement, which was, hey, was this a good idea or not? And I want to point out that I got a grade of 100%, and that kind of gave me the green light to go ahead and expand it into the book. I also want to note that the thesis was 150 pages and had only 4 chapters. So what I wanted to do is, with this grant money, be able to go into the archives even more than I already did, expand on the materials I was using, spend more time in Richmond, in downtown DC at the National Archives, and I'm so happy to say we have 7 parts with 20 chapters now all the way across. I'm expecting to have a completion date of May 1st of next year, and at that point I will send it off to publishers so they can completely destroy it and let me know some edits. But I want to let you know kind of what these parts are, because again, I expanded from only 4 chapters to now having 7 parts and 20, so that you can get the full scope of this expansion and then how much archives I've been able to go through now. So part 1 is entitled Invasion, and it covers secessionism here in Alexandria and then what prompted the occupation. Part 2, Fortify, will talk about the initial government makeup and the establishment of 25 forts, essentially making this a military base. Part 3, Regulate, will discuss the crime rates, the amount of contraband folks coming into the town and kind of what that meant here, and also the laws enacted by our military governors and the reaction to them. Part 4 in prison talks about, of course, prisons, our 5 military prisons here in Alexandria, prisoners of war, and just reaction to the crime rate and more about the laws. Part 5, Confine, which talks about the 30 hospitals here and medical care for the contraband community. Part 6, Restore, soldier burial, and the restored government of Virginia. And finally, Part 7, Reclaim, which talks about the Southern Claims Commission, Alexandrians coming back to their hometown, and a note on the lost cause in Alexandria. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're all very much looking forward to when the book comes out. And I imagine we'll be having you back when the book comes out for a more in-depth presentation about the insights about Civil War Alexandria, which again, that's a topic that there's already a lot of information out there, but we're still finding more and more out about this pivotal time in Alexandria history each and every day. So with that, I'd like to go to our next panelist, who's going to be talking to us about their research and how they're presenting it in the digital world. So Hannah, whenever you're ready.
Sure. Hi, Hi, my name is Hannah Lecomte. I am the project lead for Out and About in Old Town, which actually turned into Out and About in Northern Virginia by the end of the grant cycle. I'm a PhD student in the history department at George Mason University. I come from a background in public history. I have a degree in history from the University of Oklahoma and then a public history degree from Duquesne University. So when I moved here to do my very traditional history PhD, I was really excited to keep doing local public history. So I'm part of this team along with Savannah Scott, Ashley Williams, and Alexandra Miller, who are all also PhD students at George Mason University. So our goal with this project was to make queer history in Northern Virginia more visible and available to the public. And this all started kind of as a class project. We made a walking tour and digital story map of Old Town, significant spots in queer history in Old Town. But as we were researching, we realized there are so many more untold stories, untold queer histories in Northern Virginia more broadly. I think Washington D.C. is known for its queer history, and Northern Virginia's queer history is not as often discussed. So that was the primary goal of our project. So we expanded the project from the original story map and walking tour. We created 4 videos, we wrote 5 essays, and expanded our map to over 20 to 30 sites in Northern Virginia that we kind of identified and mapped. So we spent the money on kind of travel to archives and retrieval of archival materials, because often you have to pay for those, and then video editing software, microphones, and general web development and hosting. We are also affiliated with the Roy Rosenzweig Center for History and New Media at George Mason University, so they were able to host our website, so we're very thankful for them to them as well. So I just wanted to preview our website because that's the most visually interesting thing that I could think of other than slides. So we can start with the map, if you don't mind going to the map. So it began as, again, the story map, but we've expanded it to this map as you see here. So each spot has a kind of like a text blurb and then a photo of the site itself or of the primary source where we found the information about the site. So you can kind of click around and explore kind of wherever what leads you. The biggest spot to us was the French Quarter Cafe or what was the French Quarter Cafe in Old Town on King Street, which was instrumental in overturning a law in 1991 that barred gay people in Virginia from drinking alcohol. So it essentially legalized gay bars, but also legalized gay people and to be able to drink alcohol in the state of Virginia. So that was a significant site. That was like what kind of our whole project was based on. But we have also sites, significant sites for the Alexandria Gay and Lesbian Community Association and the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force met in Alexandria as well. So those are just a few of the other sites, but there's plenty to look at there. And then if you can go back to videos. I just wanted to play like 30 seconds of this video on the French Quarter Cafe to get a feel of the videos.
On May 16, 1991, the French Quarter Cafe opened at 808 King Street in Old Town, Alexandria, as the first publicly acknowledged gay bar in Northern Virginia. Founded by Murray Greenberg, it became a popular destination for queer Virginians and Washingtonians, serving dinner and drinks until 2 a.m. and holding art showcases, trivia, and live music events.
On cruising culture in Northern Virginia, and queer media, kind of suburban media in Northern Virginia in the 80s and 90s. And then lastly, we have essays. If you scroll back up. We have 5 essays. The one I wrote about the Alexandria Gay and Lesbian Community Association, but also the introduction to our project, which kind of gives a brief overview of the historiographic interventions we're making and the kind of public importance of this history. So there's the essays, the maps, and the videos, and then we have also the About You page, if you could navigate to that. Thanks. And then we also have an email on this page if you have any thoughts or suggestions or questions to reach out to us. So we're very appreciative of this funding, that we are able to expand this project. This has nothing to do with any of our dissertations, so it's been our passion project for the past 2 years. So we're really pleased and grateful for the support from the Alexandria Historical Society.
And can I just say, normally when we try to play video during our lectures, something always goes terribly wrong. So I think that was the first time in AHS history where we played a video and you could hear it, you could see it. So, hey! So, and out and about in Northern Virginia, it was still out and about in Old Town. Recently did a walking tour with the Alexandria Historical Society a couple months ago. So it's a great example of how digital history can become physical history and vice versa, because many people these days are engaging with the past via their phones, via the web, but there's still a need, as demonstrated by all of us here tonight, for in-person history, for the chance to talk to people, to walk and see the spaces in real life where history happened. So with that, I'd like to go to our next panelist, who's going to talk about her work using grants to make history more accessible. All right.
Hi.
Go ahead, Molly.
Thank you. My name is Molly Kerr. I work with History Revealed, which is a small nonprofit here in Northern Virginia, and we focus on ways to make history more accessible to the general public, but also trying to get the general public more engaged in what we're doing and telling the stories that are often not told. So if you could change slides for me, please.
Of course.
So just a little background about the project that we, an extension of the project that we got the grant funding from AHS with, is we have been transcribing store ledgers from the 18th century, which by and large are generally an underrepresented and an untapped primary source. I actually spoke to AHS a couple of years ago, I think, about the project. And so what we wanted to do was basically expand on the earlier phase, which had a focus on John Glassford and Company stores that were in Colchester and Alexandria, and focus more just on the Alexandria stores that we have been working on more recently with our transcribing effort.
Okay.
All right, so you're one more slide ahead of me than I was expecting.
Oh,
so
my bad.
There we go. There we go. All right. So at present, we have not only the analysis of those original John Glassford materials, but now we are actually working on Robert Townsend Hoe, or Who, depending on where you are from in Northern Virginia and how you want to pronounce it. And we are in the process of transcribing them on a crowdsourced platform. So if anybody's interested in helping with the transcripts, would be more than delighted to have your assistance. And so what our hope had been was to expand that knowledge from 1758 with that original phase of the project all the way up to 1802. And part of the key element to that is getting a clearer understanding of how do you start to deal with those transcripts? What do you do with them? And one of the big things is who are the people being described on those documents, because that is the part that has the most importance and the most relevance for most folks. And the interesting thing about it is that there are 2 levels. There are account holders, a la the people basically who have paid the bill, and then there are all the people who actually went into the store to make the purchase. So if you have ever given your credit card to your spouse or your child or your sister to go into the gas station to buy something, the bank doesn't care because you are the one who paid. But historically, what was great about these ledgers is it would write down, oh, Molly is the one who came in and bought on her mom Judy's account. So now we have 2 names, not just one. And so that was what part of this indexing was to get after, is not only who paid the bill, but who actually did the shopping. And some of those documents are really great at being able to tell us that, and kind of, we needed a way to capture that information. And so it allows us to also track name spelling variations over time. So one of the ones is Hoff. which is spelled H-O-U-G-H, H-O-F-F, H-O-O-F-F, H-U-F-F. So each document, it appears differently, and sometimes within the same document, it appears differently. So it's a matter of marrying all those names up so that instead of having 4 people, we only have 1. And so with that, it was kind of one of those that we are in the process of trying to do that. Real quickly, I just wanted to show you a picture of what the baseline of this is. Can you zoom in a little bit? You can just pick an area, any area to zoom in.
I can
on.
try.
There you go. And go up to the top. Okay, so part of the trick with these documents is that it's a book, so there are 2 pages, right? There's a left and a right page. One page is purchases, one page is payments. And one of the big tricks, of course, is the name goes across both pages, so you have to kind of be able to see the whole thing at once. And you can also kind of get a sense of all the different elements to this, just like your credit card statement that says you made a purchase on the 22nd of October, but guess what? You didn't pay the bill until the 15th of November. The same thing is recorded here, so that you can see when somebody bought something and then what they paid. And what's fascinating is they're often paying years later. I cannot imagine Visa or MasterCard being thrilled with me saying, oh, I'll get back to you in 18 months. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. And so that's just kind of one of those that makes it kind of fun. So if you want to help us, see that cursive handwriting? Anybody got that skill left? Please see me afterwards. We have plenty more documents to transcribe, and we would love your help. All right, so what did we do with that? Next slide. So that then means we looked at each ledger journal. We've got 10 documents that we're dealing with. We did 8 for this indexing project. 8 of those, we streamlined the spelling variations. We identified the page or the folio that they can be found on. We identified whether or not it was a person, a place, an organization, or a store account so that we can kind of filter out and get a sense of what's going on. There are ships, as you saw just before, Ship General Washington. There are buildings. There are organizations like the Colony or the State of Virginia, the Continental State Lottery kind of thing, as well as overhead accounts, the horses account, the wheat account, the iron account. So we've got all of this kind of individualized information about the stores themselves as well. And then we also wanted to take a look at things like gender so that we can pull out who were all the women who were shopping. A location often is a name of a home, or places obviously outside of Alexandria, familial relationships, or other identifiable information about individuals. So we've got Robert H. Ho of Falmouth and Robert H. Ho of Prince William County. We have William Lane of Loudon, who is short. So we've got kind of these little tidbits about who the people are as well. And so just to give you an idea of what these means for numbers for us, in the Ho, Stone & Company ledger from 1770 to 73, there are 239 account holders, so there's names at the top of the page. But when we look for individuals connected to purchases, we have 259 more people that we had before. So if we exclude places, organizations, generalized accounts, that's well over 460 people who are in that one document. Then if we look at the 73 to 74 journal, which is a slightly different approach, which kind of is the daily receipts in essence, often includes a lot more names, and here's a good power for you. 313 account holders identified in the journal, 562 additional individuals, 84 of which are women, and 57 are likely enslaved or have an enslavement status that we're not quite clear about. So that really brings a lot more life to this Alexandria community that were previously unrecognized. And so now real quickly, I just want to show you the result of that, what the work looks like. I'm going to take you out to the website.
Yep, hang on. All right, we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way.
Okay. So on there, we have published basically all of our indexes that we've done to date. So we started with just that Glassford and Henderson account index originally, and we had the Ho, Stone & Company index published, but now there are 6 additional indexes that are currently available. If you just click on one of them, we'll take a look. To give you an idea of how it's structured, the pages are all pretty much consistently structured because what we wanted to do was get you immediately to the meat of the information. We give you the basic stats of what's going on, but then if you scroll all the way down, what?
We'll try another index.
It worked at my house. That's just not right.
There we go, there
Okay,
we go.
all right, there we go. So anyway, there is a PDF on there that you can download and play with and get a sense of who all of the account holders are, the pages, if you want to take a look. And what's great is that part of that same page is that it links you to where the originals are published, so you can actually go and find the account associated with Short William Lane if you wanted to. So this is basically what our grant was funding, and we're really excited about it. So, so I just want to say thank you to AHS, and we're looking forward to the next phases of what else we're able to find.
So I have a real quick question before we move on. So like, would they write down that somebody was short as like a way to identify the person?
Yes. So when there are multiple William Lanes, it's a way that they can distinguish one William Lane from another. So they also use junior and senior a lot. Do not think that that represents a familial relationship. Junior and senior just often means senior is the guy who made it into the book first, junior is the guy who made it into the book second. It doesn't even necessarily mean age.
So that's the trade-off. You could pay 18 months, 2 years later, but they might be writing down some not nice stuff about you to keep with you. We will be doing questions at the end of the presentation, so hold your questions for now, more to come.
Very good, thank you.
All right, and now we're going to our next speaker, Dr. Ben Skolnick, who's going to be talking about the Frederick Douglass Memorial Cemetery Community History Initiative.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Skolnick. I'm an archaeologist here for the city of Alexandria. I work down in the torpedo factory for Alexandria Archaeology and more broadly the Office of Historic Alexandria. And over the last, let's say 5-ish years, we've been involved over at Douglass Cemetery. For those of you who don't know, Douglass is over in our cemetery complex, if I've got my directions right, a couple blocks that way. Is it?
Yeah,
No.
That way.
That's south, right? Yes. Yeah.
I think kind of like this way. Like this way.
It's that way.
This general direction.
Yeah. Anyway,
Here's some pictures of it so we can stop pointing at it.
I make maps for the city. This Frederick Douglass Memorial Cemetery, it was founded in 1895 as a non-denominational segregated African-American cemetery here in the city. Over the last century and change, there have been some preservation challenges at the cemetery. So next slide. One of the challenges is sort of a loss of active maintenance of the cemetery. Ever since, let's say, the 1980s, the city has stepped in and done the bare minimum to mow the grass at the cemetery, which leads to all kinds of other problems. Next. If you ever go there after a summer rainstorm, you'll see something that looks like this, a lake, which is not ideal for maintaining a cemetery. And one of the large projects that our office has been involved in over the last 3 years is being able to mitigate this lake, which is a presentation for another day about this specific challenge. Next slide. And anybody who's ever done genealogical research in the city has probably come across Wesley Pippinger's 5 volumes, Tombstone Inscriptions of Alexandria. When you flip inside, they're full of all kinds of helpful, useful information about the inscriptions on the standing headstones, which is great if you're doing a genealogical project if you have a standing headstone. At a cemetery like Douglass, Pippinger records something like 650 standing headstones. We also have the following document.
Next slide. Okay.
Which is the copy of the Douglass interment records. And inside of here, there's something on the order of 2,200 people buried at Douglass Cemetery. So 2,200 names named in this book versus the 650 or so standing headstones means that for many of the people buried at Douglass, all we have is a name. We don't have birth date, we don't have death date, we don't have any inscription to go with it. And so one of the problems that we wanted to tackle with our grant is to figure out who all these people are. Next slide. You can actually skip one, yes. So we went out and found ourselves a fantastic intern. This is Tamia McDonald. She is a PhD candidate in the Department of History at Howard University. And what she did is she got the crash course in how to do historic research here in Alexandria. We got her set up at the Special Collections. We came and visited Brian. We went to the courthouse. We showed her the land records office. And then we sat her down with some of the research that we've pulled together over the last couple of years. If you can give me 2 slides. And we had her write biographies of people buried at Douglas who are listed in the interment records. She is pulling information from public vital records, death certificates, census records, the interment record, any kind of newspaper mentions or obituaries, for example. And what she's doing, what she did for us, was be able to pull together portraits of these people who, even though they lived and died, some of them more than 100 years ago, we're starting to remember who these people are. The other piece that she worked on for us while she was here is several entries in the forthcoming, what do they call it, the Friends of Frederick Douglass Memorial Cemetery newsletter. So keep your eyes out for that, where she'll reflect on her time with us. And that's sort of the short of what Tamia worked on for us.
Great, thank you. And as part of this effort, it's been very much engaging with community groups, descendants groups, and so you've included that information on the slides as well. Some of those community groups and descendants groups are in this room with us as well tonight. And then, last but certainly not least, I'm going to turn things over to the gentleman just to my right, Mr. Harold Hughes.
Good evening. My name is Harold Hughes. I'm the exalted ruler of Alexandria Lodge number 48. I was tasked with the job of archiving all the records of the lodge from 1903 till today. I didn't know what I was doing when I got started. I didn't have a PhD. So what I did, we sought help from individuals throughout the city. I counted on help from Howard University, Bowie, and UDC, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. Nobody showed up. So now we were stuck with the job of trying to get it done. And and hold on, let me start over. The biggest problem with this job was that it's a fraternal organization, and we have secrets within it that cannot be let out. So I had to go to the Grand Exalted Ruler, state presidents, and so forth and so on. And on top of that, the lodge has a temple, which have their own records, and the brothers can't see their records, and they're not supposed to be seeing our records. So we brought their daughters in, the Israel Temple, 138, where Ms. Doris and Elise Pope are members of, and they got theirs done. I think y'all started in 1925, correct? Yeah, so they from 1925 on up, but women versus men. Women keep their meticulously. Men don't. We just throw ours in a drawer and let it go. That was one of the problems the brothers had. That we had records, and we had to separate the historical records from the financial records and the communications. And we are talking about from 1903 all the way up to 2025. What we found out, and most of them, was that we didn't necessarily keep them in good condition. Most of them were, the ones that were not, yeah, thank you. This is what we found in the majority of it. So we had to go through these boxes and take out these individual pieces of paper. And some of them go all the way back to 1903, so they were in fragile condition. So this particular box is all 1959. So you had to go through every piece of paper one at a time to determine whether it was historical, financial, secretive, or trash. Next one. This is the oldest one here. This is back to 1904 through 17 on this particular table here. Next one. Okay, this is some of the pictures that we had, and as you can see, they were in a place where the ceiling fell in, and they got damaged. So, and we had to deal with that. This one right here in the corner beside the red piece of paper is one of the original charters. That's when we found out that indeed the lodge didn't start in 1904, it started in 1903. So we had to change the history of the lodge and move it from 1903, December 3rd, 1903, instead of December 3rd, 1904. Next one. This is Mr. Miller over there. He's dealing with the minutes. I believe that book he has in his hand now is 1917. And the writing back then is better than what we do today. Next one. This right here threw me for a loop. This is the money that was paid to the troops. Now, if anybody know anything about this, can you help me? Because I've been trying to find out more about this. Because I thought they got paid in money and not in, I just call it a script. But I don't know what it is, but it says military payment certificate. So I don't know anything about it. I've been looking through books. I just can't find anything on it. I don't know whether it was just for the colored troops or what. I just don't know. And I was hoping somebody here tonight could help me. No.
If you do know anything about this, please raise your hand during the Q&A.
Okay, here, we had a thing, it was the Bloom of Youth. That's what the little girls that came to the, Mr. Arts, can you help me out with this? Because you better than this on the women than I am.
It was the youth department, Bloomer Youth number 32.
Yeah, Bloomer Youth number 30, and then this one ran, as the book say, it started in the book started 1902 to 1952, and then they did it again from 1952 to 2002. So I guess almost 100 years. So, well, I don't know about them girls. These are some of the daughters and brothers that when we started, this is how it looked. Because we had it in the closet, and then we had to bring it out. We set it our way. We didn't know what we was getting into, believe me. And when you go through things that you know nothing about, and you got to break it down, put it over here, put it over here, and then what you can't do, you can't have a bunch of people up there at one time, because what you end up doing, you end up putting things in circles. Okay. Okay. This is some of this more of the records and more of the people. That welcome bell has significance to us. So I can't go into that, but we found that also. This is how now what you just saw was the brother's side of the paperwork. This is the daughter's side. You can see they, and much more orderly manner than ours were. I think they started from 1925 and it goes all to 2025. I'm trying to get them, I'm trying to get permission to get the daughters to come on the brother's side to help us out. Because we're not doing too bad. We should be finished sometimes. We'll be finished sometime. I'm not gonna put the word soon on it. That's the last one. And of course, this is the Well, if, I don't even go into that.
Okay.
No, but I will.
Okay. All right,
What you saw there was the emblem, and it has significance because a lot of people don't know the history of the Elks. And there are two Elks, especially during segregation. There was the BPOE, which stands for Protective Order of Elks. Benevolent Protective Order of Elks. And then, of course, we have the Improved Benevolent Protective Order of Elks of the World. Now, the significance in that one is, I'm just give it to you like it is. It's in black and white. Okay, BPOE was the white Elks. IBPOE was the black Elks. But now you can join either one of the Elks. But at one time, they went to court about the Negroes, as we were called back then, were trying to establish an Elks organization. And they went to court, and long story short, what came out of it was they had to change the BPOE to IBPOE of W, as it stands today. So, that's just me doing the same thing I'm doing right now, giving a speech about archiving the history of the Elks. I think we might be the first large that's even trying to archive the history. And hopefully some of these lumps and bumps in the road that we are having, we can help another large get over that and not have to go through that.
Okay, and I think there's two more photos if you want to talk about them.
This one right here is one of the things that the Elks is most proud of is the oratorical contest. They've had people, well, that young lady right there went all the way to the nationals. But where they at? We had, that's the dancing. I had this all in order. I done left my own self out. But on the oratorical part of it, we had a lot of well-known people to go through it. So, without even going through all this, I don't have time. I'm through.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so I have some questions, but I know many of you in the audience have questions as well, so I'm going to turn it over to the audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll call on you and speak loudly and clearly. Go ahead, Darnella.
Mine is for the Elks. To you, how has the grant really helped you help the organization to the inspiration to, get into your archives?
And I'm going to repeat all the questions so that we are filming this, so I'm going to repeat it so that the question is recorded. So how has the grant helped the Elks organization?
It has, well, that grant came in handy because, as you know, when you're dealing with years and years of it, like we started in 1903, no one has been telling this story. If we don't organize it and preserve it, no one will ever know about it. And let me say this, and which is very important. Myself and Brother Miller, we started this at the Venture about 5 years ago. We called down to Richmond, Virginia, after we went through City Hall in Alexandria, and we found out that we were not on landing deeds. There was no record of us. All they knew that it was a building there at 227 North Henry Street. They never knew what was in the building. And that is a primary thing because remember, this is segregated Alexandria that we are talking about. So from 1903, I guess, to 1965, when integration started, all that history was kept in a locker. And no, it wasn't handed out, it wasn't distributed to anybody because I guess they say they was on an island by themselves, and then you have this secretive organization that you can't really talk about. So that didn't help. That's why.
Yes?
I want to add, one of the main reasons the grant is so important is because of the supplies that you need. Acid-free folders, boxes, these, all the types of racks that you need. We were very lucky because two of the former employees of the Black History Museum explained and went through the whole process with us. Sean Ferguson, who some of you might know is now the new city archivist. He used to be on the Historic Alexandria Resources Commission with me, and he came and talked to us. We've had a lot of help for people who are donating their time, but also to try to help explain about you need this to be able to preserve the documents. One thing to organize it is what they're doing, but it's got to be preserved, and these folders and boxes and racks, they're not free. So thank you so much to the Alexandria Historical Society for the grant for all of that help.
Absolutely, and that really speaks to the importance of archivists and the work of archiving records. As Carol mentioned, it's not just about putting it in a folder, it's about making sure it's the right temperature, the right paper, the right type of box for it all. So, if you've ever done historical research, if you've ever read a history book or gone on a history tour, thank an archivist because they had a huge role in making that happen. Yes?
Yeah. Thank you all for presenting. Regarding military payment certificates, I have worked with them a little bit. I collect coins and paper money. So I don't know much about them, but they were mostly used for paying American soldiers from roughly the end of World War II through some point in the Vietnam War. And it was, I think, a way to prevent American soldiers from messing up the local currencies by flooding regions with strong American dollars compared to weak local money. Those particular ones you showed, I don't know where they were issued or which years, but there are resources online. They're fairly well understood, so there should be some material online, but that's generally their role overall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
And I also have a question.
Yes, absolutely.
For the out and about queer academic in Northern Virginia, I was wondering if there are any sites that you weren't able to include in your map, but wished you'd had time for.
So the question was, were there any sites for out and about in Northern Virginia that were not able to be included in this round, but the team would have liked to have included?
So I think we added to the map like pretty much what we found in our research, but I would have liked to expand on the kind of analysis and interpretation of each of the sites if we had had a little bit, more time and bandwidth. So a lot of the kind of textual analysis that accompanies each site, some of the sites are a little bit slimmer than others on what information we have about them. So like, for example, there's this one, what we think was a massage parlor and like kind of a cruising site on King Street. And we have like 2 ads about it from the Washington Blade, and we can't find any other information about it. So it's like we it was like from 1976 to 1978. So we're like, okay, what happened in 1977? We can't find it, And so there's kind of sites like that where we have just such like really skim kind of primary sources on that we weren't able to elaborate on significance or even like temporally when it was relevant. So that's what I would kind of say about that. Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
I belong to the International Order of Oddfellows, and it's sort of like a replacement for the Masons that they weren't allowed to join. But they were established here in Alexandria around 1830. And I was wondering if you've come across any history, because we ourselves from the Alexandria chapter have about 200 years of documentation from our lodge. We'd like to know what the city of Alexandria has.
Yeah, no, that's a great question about what records the panelists found about relating to the Oddfellows. And Harold, it looks like you've got something to say about that?
Yes, strange you should ask that question. I have in the history of Alexandria Lodge, the lodge first met in a 2-story brick building on the corner of North Fayette and Cameron Streets. as the membership grew, meetings moved to the Odd Fellows Hall. And soon, the need for a permanent home became clear. Yes, we started with you all at the Odd Fellows Hall. Yes.
Your actual lodge?
Yes, my lodge.
Well, that's so funny because today we meet at the Elks Lodge on Richmond Highway.
Yes.
It's funny the course of history and how these stories weave together and weave apart and then weave back together in just very unexpected ways. Yes?
I have two quick questions. One, about the receipts and the laws that you have. Were you also trying to identify the types of purchases, and were you able to see any type of trends and things like that?
So the question is, among the receipts, were you able to identify any types of trends in terms of purchases and how things might have changed over time?
Okay, so yes, because the project itself was actually started by archaeologists with the idea of what was being bought. So the names were cool, but what we really wanted was the material culture that was in there. And so a lot of the purchases are very general, kind of lots of fabric, lots of building construction material. One of the projects that I'm hoping to focus a little bit more on is the Sea to Shooter's Hill. John Mills's estate, if anybody's been to the Masonic Temple. The Masonic Lodge is built on top of Shooter's Hill, which was constructed by John Mills in the 18th century. The archaeologists have been trying to find the house for years and years. The ledger actually details the construction of the house. Who did it, what materials were brought to the site, when they were brought to the site, how much was brought to the site, and describes several buildings that were constructed on the site. So there's a lot of information that goes into not just the names and the places, but also what was purchased over time. From little things like thermometers or books, to fabrics, to lots of alcohol. Lots of alcohol. We have only done an index of objects purchased with one of the books so far, and that was actually from the 1760 Glassford materials, in which we have something like 1,500 uniquely described items that were purchased over that year. And when I say 1,500 items, when rum shows up 20 times on the page, we only counted it once. So, I don't even know what the exponential growth of the number of items that could have been purchased was, but I think at one point I roughly guesstimated about 50,000 things were purchased in 1 year from the store. So, and this is kind of your corner store. This is your corner 5 and dime. This is not, this is not your high-end Macy's, and it's not your 7-Eleven. It's somewhere kind of in between is what these stores were, where you could go in and buy pretty much anything you wanted.
And I have to cheat and ask one more.
Go for it.
The material. How many bios was the intern able to find, and do you feel like you had more help, that you could unearth a lot more?
I think our goal was to have her do 100 of these. I don't think she quite got to 100, but we're chugging along a little bit at a time as we can get interns in.
So the question was, how many bios were created as part of this project? Yes?
For Hannah and out and about, when you list the Alexandria Courthouse as an important site?
Is the Alexandria Courthouse listed as one of the sites in Out and About?
The courthouse is not, though we did spend a lot of time in the basement researching the law library, but City Hall is for the human rights ordinance, but not the courthouse. Do you have a?
Well, my wife's cousin through marriage, James Lowe, he was the foremost criminal defense lawyer for the gay community in the 80s and the 90s, and he was sort of in the forefront of decriminalizing homosexuality, and it all went down.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yes?
Yes, my name is Gang. Being on the social responsibility group and the descendant of Douglas Cemetery, I feel like we were all on this journey together at the beginning. And I know you have resources from the city and from the state, but what made it so special about getting this grant from the Alexandria Historical Society?
So yeah, so the question was, and I feel so weird repeating it, but again, it's for everybody watching on YouTube. Thank you. What was the value of the grant here? How did the grant fund that? What made the grant special in terms of this project that involves the city, that involves descendant groups, that involves other community groups? How did the grant play a role in that?
I think maybe I have a twofold answer. The first is, from my desk in the torpedo factory, there's 1,700 things that we deal with on a daily basis, and something that has the power of pulling together these biographies, but is a long and tedious process sometimes, falls down the list of things, the list of fires you have to put out on a daily basis. So being able to fund somebody to come in helps get stuff like that done. The second is we were able to find a fantastic student of history and sort of give her the crash course in, like, this is how you do local history. And so it was a hands-on learning experience for not me, but for somebody who's going to go on and do, I'm sure, great things doing history work. So I mean, that's probably the more important piece of it, is the opportunity to teach somebody else how to do some of the things that we think are important.
I think we have time for about 2 more questions. Yes?
Madeline, your Civil War history. Who do you, writing the book, who do you go to for sort of the peer review process? I mean, is that just up to you and your editor?
Yeah, so, oh, sorry.
My understanding is that the book's kind of like usually not as heavily scrutinized as if you wrote for a journal.
Right.
So yeah, so the question is, what does the peer review process look like for your book?
So from what I've gathered, it's best that I find an agent who then can forward the manuscript to the right publishers, whether it's a publisher who is specialized in that field or ones that typically publish my genre of work. And then the script itself would go through the editing process with the publishing house. I have a personal peer review process where I have several people who also are in my field, but also people who do not have anything to do with my field look at it, because the purpose of my book is to kind of make it accessible and kind of get rid of all that kind of red tape of military history language and make it understandable for the public and make them actually enjoy reading about military history. So I want to make sure that those who are peer reviewing it come from different backgrounds and different perspectives where they know everything about the Civil War or absolutely nothing. So kind of 2-part answer to your question. The publishing house would be responsible for that peer review, but before I even send it to editors or through an agent, I want to make sure that I have a couple different eyes looking at it.
And for 1 more question. Yes, sir.
I don't have a question. My name is Ray Sharon. I'm a member of the body as well. I walked in a little bit late, so I don't know if it was already said, but I would like to thank Ms. Carol Black for everything that she has done. It was very needed. I live by a thing. It goes like this. A person's problem isn't their problem. That problem is the person who has the answer to solve it. It becomes their problem. Because if the person had that answer, they would solve their own problem. And that's exactly what she did. She came in, she helped solve the problem that we couldn't solve, helped get us started, helped to work with us. She donated her time, and she didn't have to. And it really paid out for us to even get us to where we are today. So I just want to say thank you, Ms. Black. Appreciate you, and let's just keep on helping everybody, Like, that's the purpose of it, is to help each other, so we can move forward. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And what a great note to end it on. Let's all keep on helping everybody. And I think that's always been the case in the history world. Like, there's the image of the solitary historian doing but it's never been like that. There's been archivists, there's been peer reviewers, there's been copy editors, there's been community activists working to make sure that we keep expanding our knowledge of the past. So the Alexandria Historical Association, we've got our hands in many parts of the historical process, these grants being one part of them. It's been wonderful, thinking back to where we were a year ago, flipping through these applications. It's been wonderful to see how these projects have evolved and grown and the information that we now have available about our city, about our community. So I just want to thank our panelists, both for coming on the panel tonight and also for the incredible work that they do and they continue to do in support of history. So please, let's give them a big round of applause. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, especially if you are a member. Everything that was talked about tonight, that's your membership dollars at work. So thank you for being a member. If you're not a member yet, now's a great time to join. We just finished, closed out a second round of grant applications for this year's grants. So we'll be announcing this year's grant winners probably sometime next month, so keep an eye out for that. Like Michael said at the beginning of the talk today, we've got some more events in the pipeline next year for 2026. And then next month, we hope you'll join us on November 21st for our watch party for the final episode of Ken Burns' The American Revolution.
Don't tell us who won.
Yeah, spoilers.
Also, help yourself to some cookies to take on your way home.
Thanks again, everyone. Hope you have a great night.